welcome back to Sonya's Prep. In this week's video, I want to take you along and show you just how I would prepare for our Thanksgiving meal. So I'm not usually so traditional in our Thanksgiving meal. I don't do turkey, don't yell at me. My family just doesn't like it. So I started to make duck. I made it once and my kids, my family, my in-laws, they all enjoyed it. So I figured, why not make something that they like? So here's the duck here. I'll show you all of these recipes. There's some yummy side dishes. We have some Hasselback potatoes, some asparagus with a delicious dressing, some sweet potatoes with garlic and dill. I have these balsamic mushrooms here and sautéed corn and then Cranberry Crisp. Lots of yummy goodies. I can't wait to take you along. First, I want to take you along and show you how I visited my friend Alina and how she did an amazing tablescape. She is so creative. So let's go there and I'll take you into the future of how I went to her house and she will show us just how beautiful she designs her table. Hey everyone, so this is Alina from Ask and I'll Tell on Instagram. She is a beauty influencer that has such amazing stuff on her page and I hope that you're gonna check her out. We go way back from the 6th grade.
Yes, fun fact, we've been together since 6th, 7th, 8th grade, junior high.
Yes.
And we lived in the same neighborhood for many years, so we really kept in touch.
Yes.
Great family, and I just love Sonya's Prep. I'm so excited to be here and just share some of my tips. So thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. I've been watching Alina doing her gorgeous tablescapes for such a long time and I really wanted to collaborate with her today and show you how amazing her Thanksgiving table looks like. I can't wait to take you along and she's gonna guide us through and tell us just how she did this gorgeous table.
Okay, so let me get into this. Basically, I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a variety. As you all know, fall is here, Thanksgiving is coming up, and I just love all the colors, the vibrant greens and the oranges and the reds. And I just think it's so welcoming and inviting when you have all the different colors out on your tablescape. So I wanted to give you options of how many different types of table settings you can make and not feel restricted. So let's start with this one. So Sonya, for this one, I created something very simple, elegant, and chic, easy to find. First of all, I got this beautiful tablecloth. It's very inexpensive. It's probably like less than $30. It's 100% linen, and I got it on Amazon, and it comes in many different colors. I picked a more neutral palette because I figured we could play around with it. You guys can probably hear my baby in the background, so.
Real life.
Yep, real life. So basically we did burlap pumpkin with a white touch. These two come in a pack of 16. Right
from Amazon? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so Sonya's gonna give you the links, she'll tag it. These are basically old dishes that I collected over the years from basic stores like Home Goods, Marshalls, and I wanted to give it a cool touch by adding these name card holders. They look like little logs.
So
it already
cute.
Comes with the paper, so you just put in the name of the person, so it's not awkward. Where does someone sit and get all confrontational at the table? You can also use these table card settings to display your food items so guests are not wondering what they're eating. So something like this would be perfect for asparagus with mustard vinaigrette.
How adorable.
Yeah, look at this one. This is a leaf that I also found in the Home Goods, and this one is great for cranberry sauce and acorn squash. The second setting that I want to get into is a more traditional setting. So here I mixed and matched plates. I did the plate from this set, but I used a different green plate here, and I put some of the flowers, and if you look at the flower arrangements right here, which I'll get into shortly, I got pop of red and a little bit of pop of white to give it a more rustic but yet, you know, natural feel to it, and I put a darker color burlap to give it more pop of color.
Gorgeous.
This one is one of my favorites. Now, you guys know a lot of times Thanksgiving comes around Hanukkah, and if it kind of overlaps, you can skip the white and orange green theme and go to the blue and white theme. So this one I went with an old traditional type of plates that I had, and I folded the same napkin and kind of like a bouquet, and I added the flowers inside. So it almost looks like a classic bouquet. So it's one of my favorites because this is also a Hanukkah theme. But the dishes here are a little bit more modern. So you have the blue and gold and then some of that old classic touch here. You could put a white pumpkin, put some blue and white flowers. This one I put for Sonya's Prep because I know Hanukkah's coming up. Maybe she'll do something like this. I don't know what you're gonna choose.
Gorgeous.
Here's another classic that I love. Everyone knows the English Roses set by Royal Albert. A lot of people probably have this in their home. It's a very traditional English dish. I put a white pumpkin with a burlap and a touch of red. Gives it such a pop of color. to any setting. So this was a really great find that I found in Target. It's actually a cake setting platter, and if you guys have watched Shy, Sonya's husband's pecan pie video, then this would be great because you can put the pie right on top of this rustic type of cake platter and label it pecan pie.
Love it, so cute.
And lastly, I got my flower arrangements. So this I actually arranged myself. I picked up these colors of orange and green and cranberry red and lemon flowers and baby reds, and combination just makes it very elegant and matches any theme.
Your creativity knows no bounds, really. So amazing.
Thank you so much.
This was so much fun. Thank you so much for showing me just how you did it. I
No
loved
problem.
it.
I'm so glad that I got to finally share it with you.
I learned so much, and hopefully I'll have all the links down below of where you can get these amazing items. I will try to find as many as I can, and you'll find them down below. Thank you, Alina.
You're welcome. Yay! Happy Thanksgiving, everyone.
Now that we've seen her gorgeous tablescape, I just can't wait to recreate this on Thanksgiving. Let's go ahead into all of the recipes.
Whenever I need to cook for an event or for Shabbat, I always have to make a list for myself. It grounds me, it lets me know what exactly I need to make. It also provides me a great amount of help for my shopping list. So here is my list of all the things that I plan to make for Thanksgiving. I also went shopping, and these are the few items that I was lacking in my fridge, so I picked some of those up. Some cranberries, baby spring mix, some butterine, which is a par version of butter, some string beans, butternut squash, some greens that I was lacking, some cilantro, parsley, dill, some garlic. I also got this duck because in our family we don't really make turkey, but we use duck. I ran out of some parchment paper, and this is the parchment paper that I found in our local store. And I got some puff pastry dough. This is Rich's Whip. It is a non-dairy topping that I will be using in my butternut squash pie. I have some mushrooms over there, some frozen corn that I'll be sauteing, and these are my favorite asparagus. I like the thick stem asparagus, not those thin, scrawny ones. And so now let's get prepping and let's get started with our first recipe, which is going to be this gorgeous sourdough bread. I do have a completely separate video on how I make my sourdough starter and how I make my sourdough bread. I'll have it linked for you up above in the cards and down below in the description box. After the bread proofs overnight in the refrigerator, I remove it from the refrigerator and place this kitchen twine in about, I don't know, I would say 8 sections, and I make the string long enough so that I could tie it around, and I'll show you just how I do that. After flipping everything over very carefully, I start tying each string, and now that I have made it for the first time, I would actually leave a little bit more room than I did this time around because it does rise significantly in the oven, and I think it would have been a little bit beneficial if I would have let it expand a little bit more in the fridge, but it still came out gorgeous nonetheless. But just a tip that I learned doing this for the first time: give it a little bit more room than I did to grow in the oven. I tried to space out everything evenly and uniformly so that it could look really nice and pretty once it's all baked. In my previous sourdough bread recipe, so many of you were kind enough to reach out and let me know that rice flour was the way to go, preventing any of the dough to stick into the bannetons. So let me tell you, it definitely did the trick, and I am very thankful. Thank you so much. Here are my little monkeys here helping me in the kitchen. I'm just putting in some beautiful decorations using a razor. You can decorate it any which way you like, but this just looked so beautiful to me. This entire time, my oven has been preheating to 500 degrees with my Dutch oven inside of it. Once the temperature has reached 500 degrees, I gently place my sourdough bread inside of it, cover the lid, and place it back into the oven for 25 minutes covered. After 25 minutes, I uncover it and place it back in the oven for another 25 minutes. After allowing it to cool for a few minutes, I remove all of the twine from this pumpkin-shaped sourdough bread, and I'm just obsessed with how it turned out. I'm so proud of it. It is so pretty and such a great treat to have on your Thanksgiving dinner table. Next up, I'll be prepping my butternut squash. So I take the butternut squash, I wash it, cut it into big chunks so that I can place it into a steaming basket. I take a big pot, place some water inside with the steaming basket in there, and place all of the butternut squash over the top of it and steam this. You could also bake this if you prefer using your oven, but I'm just going to be steaming it. It's most convenient for me. Didn't want to turn on the oven for 45 minutes to an hour, so I'm just placing it on my stovetop. Simultaneously, I'm putting up a pot of water so that I can get my asparagus going in as well. So the biggest tip that I have for you making this Thanksgiving meal is to do as much as you can at the same time so that it saves you loads of time in the process. To save your beautiful green color on your asparagus, only boil them for about 3 minutes and then shut the fire off, and right away take them out of the boiling water, shock them in some cold water if you can, and leave it on the side to make our dressing that goes on top of it. This is a mustard vinaigrette. I will leave all of the exact measurements of how to make this incredible vinaigrette down in the description box for you to check out. You guys will never eat asparagus the same way again. These are just incredibly delicious. This is going to be my go-to way of eating asparagus from now on. Next up, I'll be making these mushrooms with balsamic glaze. For those of you that know me, I really don't like mushrooms, but in this recipe, they're just incredible, so flavorful. I will leave the Pinterest link that I found this recipe from in the description box as well. But it's just 1 tablespoon of oil, 2 tablespoons of soy sauce, and 3 tablespoons of balsamic vinegar. You mix everything really well with some seasoning and pop it into the oven, and boy, does this come out to be so super delicious. Right as the mushrooms are about to go into the oven to get cooking, I check on my butternut squash and it is perfectly ready and soft in the middle. So I'll be leaving them open so that they can cool off. And while they're cooling, I'm going to be getting started on my cranberry apple crisp. So peel some green apples. I use 3 Granny Smith apples. I dice them up really well, Place it into a 9-inch glass Pyrex dish or any kind of pie pan with 1.5 cups of berries. I have some cranberries and blueberries here with a little bit of lemon juice, 3 tablespoons of sugar, and a tablespoon of all-purpose flour. Real life moment here coming up. My baby runs out of the shower, so while I'm cooking, my husband is helping me shower the kids. There's my little munchkin over there. So here's the cranberry apple crisp, and I'm about to make the topping for it. It's 1 cup of oats, 1 cup of all-purpose flour with 1/2 cup of slivered almonds and 1/2 cup of brown sugar. I'll have everything written out for you so that you could have it conveniently in the description box below. Once I mixed all of the dry ingredients, I added in 9 tablespoons of avocado oil, and I mixed everything until it's nice and crumbly and placed it all on top of the apple crisp. Once it's all ready, I baked it in the oven set at 350 degrees for about an hour. This can either be served as a side or as a dessert with a nice scoop of dairy-free ice cream, or if you don't separate milk and meat, you can use it with real ice cream, but it's just so nice and tangy from the cranberries and sweet from the blueberries and the sugar that you added. I just absolutely love this dessert. Next up, I'll be sharing with you my duck recipe. So as I stated earlier, we don't do turkey, but we use duck instead. And some years we don't do duck, we do chicken, or we just do fish. I know it's a very controversial topic, so I would love to know if you are as untraditional as I am. Leave me your comments down below. Let me know how you celebrate your Thanksgiving. Do you use the turkey, or do you use something else? I would love to take a poll and see how many of you are as untraditional as I am. After washing the duck really well, I place it onto this baking tray filled with cranberries on the bottom. I seasoned it with salt, black pepper, paprika, and this pomegranate molasses or pomegranate syrup with a splash of oil, and I massage everything in with some soy sauce as well. I get everything coated really well, and I do stuff the duck with some celery, some apples, and oranges. I also like to add in whole cloves of garlic unpeeled so that when it's nice and roasted, you have these delicious, soft, ooey gooey garlics. My husband loves them. They're very aromatic. So once the duck is fully prepared, I do cover it and I place it into a 400-degree oven for about 45 minutes to an hour covered, and then I do uncover it for an additional 45 minutes to an hour until it's really gorgeous and golden and crispy on the outside. As one of the side dishes for this Thanksgiving meal, I wanted to make Hasselback potatoes, and these are all the ingredients that I will be using to make them. After washing them really well, I place them in between 2 wooden spoons so that it prevents me from slicing the potatoes all the way down so they stay nice and intact. I slice them very thinly and I place them back onto that baking tray. I season the potatoes with some salt, black pepper, and paprika and baste them with some oil. You could use any oil of your liking. I place them into the same oven as the duck, but if you're making these separately, I would bump up the temperature to 450 degrees so that they can get nice and crispy faster. Separately now, I'll be making some sweet potatoes. Very simple. Just slice them in half, put them on a baking sheet covered with some parchment paper, season them with some salt, black pepper, and spray with some oil. Place them cut side down into the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes until they're fully cooked through. Now that my oven is full to capacity with all the things that I'm baking, I'm gonna get started on my butternut squash pie. My kids are absolutely in love with this butternut squash pie. They don't even know what's inside of it. It's quite healthy with a lot of the vegetables, the eggs, and I use this graham cracker crust, which is already pre-made, but you can totally, absolutely use a frozen pre-made pie crust or make it yourself. And these are all of the simple ingredients that we're going to be using. I have some brown sugar, flour, eggs, cinnamon, Rich's Whip, and salt. So take the pie crust, remove that plastic film, and place it into the oven to get nice and toasty. Now we'll be mushing up all of the butternut squash. So I peel all of the butternut squash from the actual peel of the vegetable, place it into a bowl, and use a fork and give it a good mash. To the butternut squash, I'll be adding in the 3 whole eggs, 1 container of the Rich's Whip. I'm going to have the exact measurements and the full recipe in the description box below for you to have all of the ingredients and measurements. I mix in all of the wet ingredients first. You could use a fork or a whisk. I do not recommend using a blender because it will make the mixture too runny. I then add in the brown sugar and the flour and give everything a mix as well, and sprinkle on a little bit of salt to taste. Once all of that is nicely incorporated, using a whisk, you can place it into the pie crust which we have toasted in the oven. Depending on how large your butternut squash was, you might have a bit left over of the mixture, and that is absolutely fine. You can either make 2 of these pies or reserve some of that and make it later. Right before baking, I place in some cinnamon right over the top, and I bake it in the oven for about 45 minutes to an hour until it's fully cooked through. At this point, our Hasselback potatoes have been cooking for about 20 to 25 minutes, so I wanted to make a dairy-free butter glaze for it. So I have Earth's Balance here, and I placed in some garlic powder, some oregano, some cilantro and parsley, and some salt. I mixed everything well. I took out the Hasselback potatoes from the oven, and I gave it a very good baste with that parve butter dressing, I guess you would say, and then I placed it back into the oven to crispen up some more. I basted every 10 minutes or so until I liked how crispy it looked. The duck has been in the oven for about an hour now, covered, so I'm going to be removing the cover, basting it with its juices, and placing it back into the oven to crispen up. After about 20 minutes, the sweet potato is now ready. I flip them over and put them on a nice dish, and I top everything off with some crushed garlic and some dill. That's totally optional. You could leave them just as they are. They get nice and caramelized on the outside. As you can see, those little brown bits. It's nice and delicious, and this is just how I like to serve them, with this garlic and dill. For our last recipe, I'll be making some sautéed corn. I have a pan here with a little bit of oil. I added in 1 onion that I've diced up thinly, and I'm going to be seasoning that with some salt and black pepper until it gets nice and brown and caramelized. To that, I'll be adding in a generous amount of crushed garlic, I would say 3 to 4, and mixing that in as well. And once that garlicky aroma is nice and strong, I'm going to be adding in 1 pack of the frozen corn and giving everything a very, very good mix. At this stage, I love adding in a nice dollop of Earth's Balance to make it nice and creamy. Of course, to top it off, I'm going to be sprinkling on some yummy greens. I have scallions here, but you can use anything you'd like, or you could simply omit it altogether.
You guys all enjoyed this video with all these yummy recipes, and I can't wait for you to recreate them for your family and friends. On this Thanksgiving Day, I wanted to wish all of you a very happy Thanksgiving, and I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, watching me, inspiring me to create more content. Thank you so much. Happy Thanksgiving from our family to yours.